Hello, I'm Sam.
Hello, I'm Andy, and I'm just not that into games.
Hello and welcome to I'm Just Not That Into Games, a podcast where we get a non-gamer, Andy here, to play games that he would normally not play. So, Andy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I mean, when he says non-gamer, I actually work at a games company, which will remain unnamed for reasons. And so I'm around a lot of gamers, and they tell me about games a lot. And I have played games before, but I'm just not that into games.
So we thought, let's have a bit of fun, let's make Andy play these games and see what comes out of that.
So basically, it's a podcast about me feeling uncomfortable playing things that I wouldn't normally play.
And what we'll do is we'll get Andy to play a game for about 3 hours, or until he finishes the game if it's a really small game. And anything after that, well, I guess that's just for me to know what happens. And then we can have a bit of discussion about the game afterwards and get Andy's first thoughts on the game. That's what this podcast is all about. And so we'll get straight into it with our first game, Bastion.
So Sam, tell me, how exactly is this going to work?
What do you mean?
Well, I'm kind of softballing this to you, Sam.
Right.
I'm asking you to set up the podcast for people.
Okay. So I'm going to tell Andy a little bit about this game, Bastion, which is our game for this week. And Andy is just going to tell me what he thinks about this to begin with. And then after he plays it, he'll give us his final thoughts on the game. So the first game that I want you to try, Andy, for this podcast is Bastion. Bastion is an action-adventure game from 2011, developed by SuperGiant Games. In Bastion, you awaken on a small island in the middle of a half-destroyed world. As you move around, new islands float up from below to make a pathway, and the world develops as you move around. When you explore the fractured city of Ceylondia, you'll be battling through enemies by using an array of items in a hack-and-slash combat way. What sets Bastion apart, though, from other games is the gorgeous soundtrack and excellent narration. The game was the first to really experiment with the idea of having a narrator react to the player's actions in real time. This narration blends seamlessly with the gameplay, which makes the game feel really alive. Combine that with the excellent art direction and polish, this game is one of the best out there, in my opinion. I chose this game for you, Andy, because it's easy to jump straight into it without having any gaming experience. It's fairly forgiving of mistakes, and it's primarily about the experience of exploration. It creates a wonderful world that's easily up there with some of the best in video game environments. So, give it a go, and let me know what you think.
You know what always gets me about games at times? The games I see you guys playing on your computers and your Xboxes and, you know, all these kinds of things.
Kids these days.
Well, no, seriously. Like, there's a lot of children. There's a lot of children in games. Like, you know, these are games about children, with children, made by children, really. Like,
come on, that's not fair.
Well, it's kind of fair.
I suppose it's kind of fair.
Have you seen most of Japan?
I feel like we're getting off topic here. So, anyway, the game basically takes place with you moving around the world and trying to restore the world to the way it was before the calamity occurred. And you'll do this with the narrator during out the entire game. So this narrator comes in and talks about what you're doing as if it's happened in the past. And it creates this interesting relationship between your character and the world, because it's all coming through the lens of this narrator that's external to you inside the world.
So this is another beef I have with games all the time,
Yep.
is that they seem like a lot of work. Like, you know, I've got a job, right?
Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it's not an especially long game. It's maybe like, 6 or 7 hours to get all the way through. And you're only going to be playing 3 hours of it anyway, so it's not going to be too bad. But the game's got a really good combat system, so you're going around, you'll be moving around and attacking enemies and positioning and you getting weapons and items, and it's all the usual sort of stuff, and you get a hack and slash style game, but it's in a pretty world, it's got a great soundtrack, it's got a great narrator that really brings the world to life, that actually responds to the things that you do in the world. So it feels like a really nice world to visit.
Okay. So I'll be restoring the world. So I'm like fixing other people's broken shit.
Kind of. It does some really interesting things with that at the end, which you may or may not get to.
Okay. Well, as the title of this podcast clearly states, I'm skeptical.
Well, that's the point of this, isn't it? Is to see what new people think about these games.
And you think of me knocking about this world for 2 to 3 hours, as a complete noob, I will get a good indication of what the game is about and why people should even care.
Absolutely. You'll get through most of the main mechanics of the game, and you'll get to see a lot of the content of the game within that first few hours. And then from there, it's all about just fleshing out that world with a little bit more character and a little bit more story as you go by.
I look forward to it.
Oh, that's all I can hope for.
Dig my hole, you build a wall. I dig my hole, you build a wall.
Well, time has passed and I've played this game.
What'd you think?
Well, what I thought can be broken down into 3 sections.
Like it's on a piece of paper with your notes or in it something?
That's a great way to visualize this.
Yeah, okay.
So, I want to break it down into things I loved about the game. Mm-hmm. Well, at least liked.
Right.
Things that I thought were meh.
Yep.
And then a much larger section of things I didn't like.
But what's important is that there's things that you did like, right?
There are some things I did like.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's start with the positive, and then slowly work our way down as the internet descends upon you with its righteous fury.
I like how you think that anyone's going to listen to this.
It's a bit optimistic, but we'll see.
So, just to set the scene, I got up to the Plith, the god of calamity. So I did about 5 world/sections of the place. Mm-hmm. First of all, before we get into it as well, I don't really understand what Bastion means. They kept saying it in the game, like, this is a bastion, that's the bastion, here's the bastion.
Well, it was all about the location of the bastion. The center area that you would be like the hub of the world that you were rebuilding, that had different like little buildings that you would construct as the game went by. That was the sort of focal point of the game, was that little hub area.
The hub area was called a bastion.
Yes.
The hub area was Bastion.
Yes.
The place Bastion.
So that little hub area was called Bastion and was meant to survive through the calamity.
Okay.
Right.
Righto. Well, that was confusing for me.
Okay. Well.
Okay, so the art was really solid, like really solid cartoony art. And the floating pathways in the sky, especially the way they animated up to me as I explored different regions, that was just gorgeous.
Yeah,
like it was just
really good, wasn't it?
Just gorgeous in the way that it worked. It worked in the way I moved and where I went. Look, the sound was just phenomenal. Like, it just really, really, really was. Like, it was just gorgeous, gorgeous music. And it sort of hovered between Old West Pioneer and fantasy folk.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. Darren Korb, I think, is the name of the composer of it, and the whole album, all the way from start to finish, is just golden. There's never a bad track in the entire game. It's just really good.
So it reminded me a little bit of the way that Halo's music, especially for the first Halo, was just really, really epic and just fit everything really well. And I thought the music really fit everything well, and I thought the voiceover was lovely and rich. Reminded me of Terry Wogan from BBC Radio 4. Unfortunately, the late departed Terry Wogan. So he reminded me of all the best radio announcers I've ever heard, in that rich, deep, caramely sort of voice.
You could just listen to it all day, right?
I could listen to it all day. It was pretty sweet. Now we get on to the things that I just didn't really care for.
Yeah, yep, right.
Okay, there's a story, but there's not much of a story.
Yeah, but before we continue, I'll just point out here that, like, where you got to in the game is very much just about setting up that world. It's very much environmental storytelling. There's not real much character development at that point, but I have to say that when you get into the game and it starts to develop what happens and you get more information, the story actually just takes off and does some really interesting things by the end.
That's not good enough. No, it's not good enough. I'm about 3 hours. I spent 3 hours playing this game.
Yep.
And I played it from when I actually started it, not from when I started installing it.
Okay, that's good.
I played 3 hours this game, and so I have to play, another 10 hours to actually get any story out of it? And yet this is a game that's supposed to be based on story?
I don't think it was really selling story. I mean, that's one part of it, but the game's about the exploration aspect, where you're going around and experiencing this new world and going around. That's what the game's all about.
Okay, so let's get on to another bit of this game, which was criminally oversold by you.
Okay.
Which is exploration.
Yes.
Exploration, my left foot. There is no exploration in this game.
What do you mean?
You hit a hub, you go 4 directions, there you go, kid, and it's all done. Like, they are clear, there are clear pathways, and all they are is dead-end streets. They are just a street to walk up, you walk back down, walk up another bloody street, walk back down that street. It's like I'm doing the census. So I did the census. Just for the record, I was a census collector in Australia. Very important job. The census is collected every 4 years. It's an important bit of data.
The more you know.
Yeah, the more you know. The more you know. So, anyway, and that's exactly what I did for the census. So I just walked up a street, and then I fucking walked down the other side of it, and then I was done.
But did the ground rise up from beneath you as you walked across?
Yeah.
Did the sound just blow your mind?
No, because I've been playing the game for 3 hours. So, I mean, and that's another thing too, right? So it feels like someone came up with the idea of, why don't we get the ground to animate up from the below someone so that they're stepping on tiles as they come up, right? Mm-hmm. And then they decided to try and shoehorn a game, and I'm using air quotes here, a game in around that mechanic, right? Like, isn't this cool? That's a demo for an engine. Honestly, that's a demo for a graphics package. It's not a game, right?
Well, I think this is leading into a point about gameplay. I think you should probably go into that a bit more.
Okay, so here we go. Gameplay. What gameplay? I was given so many chances to finish each area that I just spammed attack and health potions, and I finished it. There you go. I'm done. I've finished the area.
Yeah.
Did I do badly? Doesn't matter, kid. You got 5 more chances and stuff it. You just keep getting retries.
So one of the interesting things that the game does is and it comes down to that whole early area is about teaching you the game. They do it a little bit slow. I'll give them that. But how the game typically works, though, is as you get to a higher level, enemies start being a bit more strategic with how you attack them. Sometimes they defend at times, and you have to maneuver around certain enemies. When you face a clump of enemies, you need to work out what's the correct way to dispatch them in order to do it efficiently or without taking as much damage. That is the point, though, that you brought up, that when you die, it's easy to continue, and there's not really that much of a punishment for failure in the game. And I think that was a conscious design decision that they made because they wanted the game to be very open for everyone. It is a game for literally everyone to play, and I think anyone can get through to the end of it because it's about trying to build that world and build that character rather than having people say, nah, stop, you're not good enough. No. And that's what they wanted to get. They wanted everyone to get through the game rather than to have a really strong challenge. They did, however, introduce one thing literally in the section after that you were in where you can unlock difficulty modifiers. So there'll be a building in your Bastion that has all these different difficulty modifiers that you can apply to your game that give you more money and give you more experience and more rewards, but make the game a lot more harder. So if you're finding the game a little bit easier, you can just click on a couple of these glyphs and it can make the game really hard if you're looking for something a bit meatier.
So eBay
Yep.
and say RACQ insurance website, these are things that are designed to be easy to use.
Yes.
And easy for a user to get from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. Just doesn't feel like a game. If it's going to be a game, needs to be easy to use, be an easy user experience. And that's what I experienced with Bastion, is that this felt like an easy user experience. So it just felt like a lot of time wasting. Beautiful, gorgeous, like lovely narrated with this Mark Twain-esque sort of Civil War documentary narrator.
Yep.
Around me, and and I just didn't think the narration was anything like what you sold it as. Like, it's not that responsive. It's like, I walk into an area, it plays a canned response like, hey, old mate goes through the door, and I'm like, yep, that's what I just did. Great, you know.
There are a couple of opportunities in the game where you can interact with the world in a way that actually makes that narration tick, and maybe you just spend more of the time walking around rather than exploring the full area to get the full.
So hang on. So going up and down these streets, right to the end, then back again. That's no. So there's a different way to explore other than walking the F around.
Yeah, you can interact with a lot of things in the world.
Yeah, and interaction, right? This gets me to another point, right? So you need to collect money in this game, right?
Yes.
Yeah, what a lot of work that is. Like, you can destroy most things in the game, right?
Yep.
So you just have to go around just pounding on boxes and bits of shit. It's like I'm doing my lawn mowing at home, and I really hate the lawn mowing. Like, I just really hate it. It's shit that needs to get done. Or the vacuuming. Like, you know, it's shit that needs to get done, and I need to cover the area, right?
Yep.
But, you know, that's because I don't want to live in a filth pot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to take my time, my precious, precious time, and just spend it, well, let's break another 1,000 boxes and get ourselves some money. And the thing is, like, everything in the game costs money, so I'm incentivized to spend all this bloody time breaking up all these boxes and bits of crap around the place just to get this money. And then when I kill an enemy, I've still got to walk over the area where the enemy was near. They've got a bit of an attraction going with the coins, but all glyphs or whatever you want to call them. Shards of the world. I don't know what they are.
Money.
Yeah, money.
Okay.
but I mean, what like, do you really think someone should have to spend 5 to 10 hours of their lives just grinding through something? You know, like there are so many better entertainment options out there.
All right, so I think one of the things that sets it apart is the amount of subtlety that it conveys. And I think maybe this comes down to maybe I overanalyze, maybe I look too much into it. Maybe. I'm no expert. But I always found that there was a lot that you could take out of it if you just dug a little bit deeper and you look under the surface. If you start to examine some of the things in the world around you, you start to pick up on things that you might have missed. That's my pitch for the game.
Okay, fair enough. So overall, I give Bastion I'm not going to play it anymore.
Out of 5.
Out of 5.
Bastion's definitely one of my favorite games of all time, so I'm going to be very generous, and I would give it a 9 out of 10, personally, because I think it's definitely up there, even though Andy didn't seem to enjoy it as much.
And Bastion still hasn't cured me from not being really into games. So onwards
to the next one.
Onwards to the next one. Whoever's listening, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here with us, being here to experience what had just happened. Are you going to say thank you, Sam?
I suppose I should. Thank you all for listening.
This podcast is proudly brought to you by Reuben-aptroot. We think he's in a band called Playboimillionaire. You can find Playboimillionaire's music, we think, on SoundCloud and at various venues around Brisbane, Australia.
Everything you thought you'd know, you can't give up or settle down or search for the fitted crown just to come up short. Continued search upon your perch, make them feel as if they couldn't get much worse. Maybe a stronger dose or a different kind of trip. When it doesn't last, you'll leave another trapped in your past. Continued search couldn't get much upon your perch, make them feel as if they couldn't get much worse.